Hello everyone, welcome again to Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. As you can see, it's Halloween time, so we've decorated the study accordingly. And this month, we're going to have a little bit of fun by releasing a number of videos that will be spooky themed in some way or another. I mean, it's Halloween, and I'm all about getting into that spirit of this ghost-infested, candy-enriched, costume-wearing time of year. Kicking off our Halloween specials, I am doing a review on the original Twilight story, the Ketchup Vampires.
They say, liar, liar, pants on fire. There's no such thing as a ketchup vampire. You must have had a dream, but I knew what I'd seen. Liar, liar, pants on fire. There's no such thing. Okay, seriously, I can only begin to describe how Stephenie Meyer stole everything she wrote for Bella and Edward from this movie. I mean, vegetarian vampires versus bloodsuckers. The bloodsucking vampires dressed in red and having their own special convent of superpowered and ancient beings. You have teens falling in love because of plot. The dialogue is absolutely terrible. And for crying out loud, the girl's name is Bella.
You know, Bella, you're the only girl in the whole world.
Oh, my Bella!
Bella. Pretty strange, that is.
I see what you've done there, Stephenie. You can't fool me. Okay, here's the thing. This movie is bad. As in, gloriously bad. When there's a food fight of blood sausage and garlic with the fate of the whole cast in the balance, you know you're in for a bit of a treat. Or when you get a musical masterpiece like this.
We can make a first class, first rate, number one, greater than great, most amazing money making, fast looking, earth shaking, biggest, brightest neon plastic, smooth running, fantastic. It's tiny, it's so stupendous, shiny, it's the best, tremendous ketchup making factory in the whole wide world.
Or when the movie's only legitimately creepy part is offset with a bunch of bimbos like this.
Master?
Here's one thing I will give the Ketchup Vampires. It totally owns its own stupidity. Narrated by Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, who has no business anywhere near a kid's film, the story reveals that everything is basically a spoof. Whereas I'm still waiting for word from Stephenie Meyer that Twilight was supposed to be a comedy. This is the story of the ketchup-drinking vampire Vampino and his love, Bella, a human. Their families live together harmoniously in the castle of Ravenstein. However, Vampino's parents have a terrible secret. They stole Dracula's magical book that allows vampires to make more immortal blood-sucking fiends like themselves. Because I guess their fangs don't work the way Bram Stoker's thought they did. The Volturi, vampires of Transylvania attack the castle of Ravenstein, disguised as foreign exchange students to retrieve Dracula's book, which, as we are reminded from time to time, has a spell that changes socks and underwear into gold. You do you, Dracula. They are, however, defeated by an extramarital affair and a food fight, accompanied by a kindergarten song about tomatoes. Yeah, this leads us then into the only really creepy part of the movie.
Oh, how many times did I hear of it? The nursery rhyme at my mother's knee. Dracula's ring is made of ruby. Dracula's ring is made of gold. The one who wears its life is to be, again made young though he be old. Ah. Yes. Now the power of the ring is on my hand, and I will use its might, so we can again perform the Matura. Just when I thought all was lost. And now, I summon the power of the ring to give me the strength of Dracula.
Had the movie been in this vein throughout its duration, it would have actually been a solid horror flick. But we then cut to bats making out. And from there, everything is about 14-year-olds declaring their undying love while fighting over Dracula's ruby ring. One thing I can say for it is that, well, this Bella actually has emotions and more than 3 facial expressions. So Ketchup Vampires ends up being more spoof than horror, but that is totally fine because, again, the story owns that about itself. One thing that is completely cringy is when a story tries to be edgy and spooky, but fails miserably. Then there are stories that purposefully fail at trying to be spooky in order to garner a laugh. The Nightmares series by Jason Segel, yes, that Jason Segel, is in many ways similar to Ketchup Vampires, where it uses horror tropes to create a more lighthearted narrative. Sometimes purposefully botched horror stories end up being just as memorable as any other excellent tale of horror and depravity. And I highly recommend Nightmares. It is a fantastically written series with a wonderful twist on how we can view and understand our own nightmares. So please go check it out. I promise that during this Halloween season, it is a wonderful series to read. And go check out Ketchup Vampires too. I do not suggest in any way that you try copying its writing style for your own horror stories, because it sucks. But I do suggest that you enjoy how bad this movie is. As for writing advice, it's this. If you're going to write a horror tale, ask yourself, what is the message that you are communicating? The best horror tales have a message and a theme that they want the audience or readers to internalize. If you can find out what that is, your story will be enhanced by it. And that's because really the best kinds of horror stories are a kind of dark mirror to ourselves and to our own world, allowing us to see ourselves in a light that frightens us and thereby bores the message into our minds. However, if you can't find a deep message that would resonate well through the framework of a horror story, well, then I suggest that you go the more lighthearted approach. And trust me, those can be just as entertaining and just as meaningful for a certain audience. It's totally fine to not be great at writing a horror story if you're able to write a really good spoof. But for those of you who want to write a really good horror story, don't just think about gratuitous violence and edginess for horror and edginess sake, but think about what will really resonate with people and communicate something meaningful. And with that being said, I'm going to end this video here. I hope you're all sharpening your knives for some pumpkin carving and are already hoarding that good sweet candy. As you prepare for Halloween, please go check out our podcast, Camille's Harem. Our first season is already done and up on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play, and we are hard at work on season number 2. And in the description, I have links to our Tumblr, Pinterest, and Reddit pages. And you can still send us links to bad fanfics via our Twitter at Camille's Harem, so we can do epic readings of them for you guys in the future. And finally, please comment on what your Halloween plans are for this year and some of your favorite terrible Halloween stories. I would love to hear about them in the comments section. And I'll be back soon with another Halloween-related video. And until then, tschüss.